Hello and welcome to BK Live. Thank you so much for joining us this Monday. We hope you had a wonderful weekend. Melanee, Farrah, how was your weekend?
My weekend was wonderful. I stayed in all weekend.
Really? It was so beautiful out though.
Yeah,
Missed
okay.
it all.
It was beautiful under my covers in my bed, dressed.
We can't fault you for that. Well, we're going to talk about the arts now. They are supposed to be the most enlightened part of our culture, right? Well, no prejudice, no double standards, no sexism, right? Well, maybe not.
We'll get to that in just a bit with our guest, Dexter Wimberly, curator of an art exhibition that opens this Thursday, and two women whose art is included in that exhibition, Margaret Bpwland and Caitlin Cherry.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for being here, Dexter. Margaret, Caitlin, thank you.
And this past Friday, Michael Bellamy and Doc Stanley went a couple rounds previewing the big fight at Barclays on Saturday night between Zab Judah and Malignaggi. We asked Doc to come back today so they could finish what they started.
And not everything you serve for the holidays needs a big carving knife or a gravy bowl. Chef Anthony Rinaldi of the Pearl Room will be here with some different kinds of finger food, and some wine to go with them. So
I can smell it already. The chef's been doing his magic. All that's ahead, but first, Mel never left home all weekend because she was so determined to uncover the real news going on in Brooklyn, and she's definitely earned the right to take us for a walk around the blog.
Thank
please.
you, sir. Well, you wouldn't think a landlord could just tell the United States Postal Service, hey, sorry, gotta terminate your lease. Better find someplace else to put your little post office. But DNA Info says that's exactly what happened to two USPS locations in Brooklyn. One of them, the Times Plaza station on Atlantic near 4th Avenue, could be replaced by a 4-story hotel. The other, Pratt Station on Myrtle Avenue near Grand, may turn into a mixed-use residential building. Both stations are still open for the present, but if you know anyone who knows of rental space with at least 3,700 square feet plus room for a loading dock, they should either contact Community Board 2 or the USPS itself. Now, next summer, the free Governor's Island ferry, the one that leaves from Brooklyn Bridge Park, may no longer be free, that is. Brooklyn says that starting in 2012, the Trust for Governors to late September. Up to now, you could only go there for summer weekends and holidays, a total of 40 days per year. The trust says to do so, it needs to charge a round-trip fare of $2, $1 for seniors, and no charge for kids and bikes. Sounds good. Back to DNA Info for a story that might make you hungry. So if you want to hit pause and go grab something to eat, feel free. Meanwhile, an Orthodox chef named Yuda Schloss is serving sandwiches from his Crown Heights apartment. He calls his pop-up takeout, please don't go in there, that's my bedroom eatery, Hasid and hipster. He sells items like a $15 brisket sandwich with, as DNA Info hungrily specifies, roasted cauliflower, charred mandarin, and green onion marmalade. Schloss uses Facebook to let customers know what's on the menu and makes his food available twice a week. Yes, it's kosher, but it isn't officially certified because, well, it's cooked in his home, which, strictly speaking, means it's also illegal according to the New York City Health Department. That's apparently not stopping the customers who ring Schloss's doorbell and walk away with lamb ramen or quinoa dumplings. We'll see. We've all seen gingerbread houses. Maybe you've even made one with your grandmother. But, says the Brooklyn Eagle, wait until you visit the lobby of the Brooklyn Marriott, where you can stroll around an 83-building gingerbread village. The Marriott's executive sous chef, John Lovitch, has been working on it since July, and he's used 124 pounds of gingerbread, 186 pounds of candy, and an astounding 712 pounds of icing. There's a railroad, dozens of trees, and the Plum Pudding Hotel. Oddly, a community of gingerbread also has a fish market. Guinness has named it the world's largest edible gingerbread village, and that official designation, Lovitch says, isn't easy to get. No marzipan, no chocolate, insists the chef. And he says there must be 11% or more town structures and commercial buildings, like schools and train station. So no word yet if this was strictly a union construction site.
Have you ever actually eaten a gingerbread house?
I want to know how edible a gingerbread house built in July is.
I know, like 6 months later, that
6
thing
months
is,
later,
I'm sure it's
an
delicious.
Edible, yeah, but edible art, I guess.
All right, I know what we're doing after the show. The Marriott's only a little few blocks away from here. So
You
we're
take a
going to, well, no, let's talk about some real art right now, with all due respect to the chef. Beginning this Thursday at the Driscoll Babcock Galleries in Manhattan, there's an exhibit called Corpus Americanus. The curator of that exhibit is Dexter Wimberly, and he has brought 2 artists with him who are taking part in the show, Margaret Bpwland and Caitlin Cherry. So Dexter, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Margaret and Caitlin, thanks
you.
for joining us today. So this is a big deal exhibit, and Melanee is very excited about it, so I'm going to let her take the lead on this one. She has so many questions.
Well, first of all, thank you, Dexter, for helping bring this to the people. Can you tell us how difficult, or if it was difficult at all, to get this launched and up and running?
Well, you know, I would say for me, it was challenging but not difficult. Any good exhibition is going to have challenges because you're actually attempting to do something. In my opinion, if you're doing it right, you're attempting to do something that's fresh and a little bit new, and that's always challenging because you're asking the artists who are participating to sort of dig a little bit deeper than they may normally dig to create work for the show. The exhibition is entitled Corpus Americus, as a nod to the Latin phrase habeas corpus, which, as some people may know, relates to, well, the terminology relates to body, but it's in sort of the legal system. It's a very important aspect of our legal system, which means that if you're charged with a crime, you must be brought before a judge. It means, you know, you may have the body. So in the sense of using that as an inspiration for an exhibition titled Corpus Americus sort of refers to the American body today, sort of who we are as a nation, as individuals and collectively.
So what's different and unusual about this that you were speaking about?
Well, for me, every exhibition is about telling a story. I became a curator in a very different way than most curators. My background is in advertising and public relations. I've only been a curator for about 5 years, and my love of history is on par with my love of art. And so art, for me, has always been a way to weave important stories and bring them to the public. And for this particular exhibition, the 10 artists in the show, in my opinion, really represent 10 very unique aspects of art making and thinking as it relates to the contemporary sort of art culture. And I was very blessed with the opportunity to present this show in a very, very reputable gallery, great location. It's beautiful. The exhibition itself, it's really about portraiture and sculpture, primarily portraiture. Yeah. But not in a very basic sense of it. Each artist in the show has a very specific way that they handle identity and ways that they handle creating the human image or the body.
So tell us a little bit about what story you're telling, Margaret, in relation to the exhibition.
Well, but just for this, from the get-go, him using the word storytelling has been something that I have fought for my entire life. When I was Caitlin's age and came into the game, you weren't allowed to do that. Art was supposed to be about itself. And the sheer narcissism of that broke my heart. Art had always been about, it was always a language with which people had used to tell big, important stories. It was the way they had educated the most profound ideas of their times. And when I walked into the game, you weren't allowed to paint the figure at all. And art was supposed to be for itself. And in no other medium is such a thing true. And in finding curators Dexter's generation, artists of Caitlin's generation, they have a freedom to feel the storytelling is applicable, is simply on the table. And for me, that is a very, very big opening.
So Caitlin, you're the beneficiary of the sort of tail end of that arc. Did you ever have a sense of restriction that wasn't something that was possible, or are you up against a different set of variables with your work?
Well, I think the variables still apply to me, maybe to a lesser degree. I think that there's a different set of challenges that maybe get brought up by artists my generation. I think that, you know, I really notice almost a pull away from this. We're talking about storytelling. I think that I don't really see too many figurative storytelling painters around me. I think there's currently in the art world, there's kind of a move away from that, more towards abstraction or conceptual art. And I'm still kind of rooted in the sort of narrative work because it, for me, it's necessary to be able to, you know, critique society, and my work is already very much about sort of America and its role in the world and how its sort of culture can affect the world negatively or positively, and how culture kind of gets exported. And that kind of relates to the piece that I have in Corpus in a majority of my work. But yeah, I think that there's still a lot of factors in play for artists of my generation. I just think it may fold in a slightly different way, but yeah.
You're getting to share your narrative, but as a whole, or do either one of you feel that women are underrepresented in the art world specifically in being able to have that opportunity?
Yeah, I think so. I think the things that I notice is there's not always a good representation. You know, artists show at these galleries, and I think that you kind of, if you kind of filter through looking at, you know, each individual artist on any given gallery's roster, you can kind of see a slight tilt towards, you know, a specific type of artist, usually male, usually white, and that's still something that happens, you know, even with galleries that aren't old, you know, even, you know, brand new galleries or young galleries, there's still a tendency to represent, you know, male artists.
Going on that, Dexter, we're sitting around the table. We have a young African-American man who's a curator, which there must be about 5 of you guys in the city. And then we have women who are underrepresented in the art world. Is this a part of some larger vision that you have to bring artists from Brooklyn to a different stage with you as you guys all sort of ascend together?
For me, it's a bit different. You know, I was born and raised in Brooklyn, so naturally, I have a strong affinity for the borough, a strong connection to the people that live here, many friends, many connections. And so as a byproduct of that, what I do professionally will somehow reflect Brooklyn, whether it's a conscious decision or not. It's just something that's innate. However, from the standpoint of there being a mission, I wouldn't necessarily say that my mission is that as much as it's a broader mission. When I decided to commit myself to being a curator and working within the arts, the one thing that I was clear upon is that the artist was the most important part of the puzzle. That it wasn't about the galleries, it wasn't about the museums, it wasn't about the collectors or other dealers or any of that, it was about the artists. And so for me as a curator, my mission is to give as many quality artists the opportunity to have their work seen as possible. When I reflect on the 14 exhibitions that I've curated to date, I realize that if I run the numbers, and I've done this, and when, you know, those rare times when I have nothing better to do, or sort of like look at the names of every artist that I've exhibited, and to date we're looking at somewhere close to about 180 individual artists whose works I've shown in the last 4 years.
How's the breakdown?
Most of them have been women.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, completely, you know, just a result of the artists that I know and that I've had an affinity for, and who fit within the construct of the exhibitions I've been curating. But I wasn't aware until recently, and I'm not naive, but I wasn't aware until recently how unusual that is. Really? That if I had an exhibition with 7 artists in it, and 5 of them are women artists and 2 of them are male artists, I don't really think about it in those terms. But as I look at it and I talk to people, they go, you know, that's unusual, because most of the times, you know, you're lucky if you find a woman artist in a large group show like that.
Right. So why aren't women in the arts, and why aren't people of color in the arts, just in the broader context, if that is the reality of what it seems the perception is that art is a field dominated by white men. Are there more people of color and women than we know of? And what's the disconnect?
Well, on the subject of women, I'll let the women answer.
All right, ladies.
I was just thinking that women artists, I mean, the two biggest female artists I respect right now are Melanee Thomas and Kara Walker. So in terms of, I mean, women have come out swinging when they've gotten the opportunity. But when I've been thinking about this and talking to women about this the last couple of days, and there's a kind of perfect storm that I think that's created with women in the arts. They buy into the fact that they don't have a right to the question. I mean, when I'm a teacher, and one of the things that I teach kids in the history of art, it's always been initially about subduction. You must get the person to stop long enough to look at what you're doing. So there has to be some element that arrests the person, and usually that meant beauty, wholeness. Right. Art was something that was, with a disparate, crazy world, something made something whole that stopped you for a moment. People don't often necessarily then want to hear what you have to say if what you have to say is something that's troubling. And I think that's the crux of it. And I remember my mother, I was thinking about it the other day, as a Southern woman, I remember my mother saying, "You are successful insofar as you get him to believe that it was his idea." And she meant it about marriage, but I've known many women who say that that's how they function in corporate relationships. Yeah. I would have thought by the time I was this age that there would have been a great deal more progress in that. Yeah. That women would have felt a great deal less need to seduce and to present that as well. I mean, the guy next to you doesn't have to have plastic surgery to keep being on the evening news. And it's that, the lack of progress in that has been something that has stunned me. But what I'm mostly interested in is how much the women that we ourselves help this keep going. Yeah. We collaborate.
So the buy-in.
Well, it's what is it called? The colonization of the mind. We start to believe that what the powerful people tell us is the norm is. Right. And then or the Stockholm syndrome, we start to believe that we start to lose ground within ourselves.
Do you share that view, Caitlin?
Yeah, totally. I think that from what I notice, it seems there's an increase of women artists that are getting into, the arts in school. And I think at this point, statistically, there are more women in these programs, but they end up leaving school and they're finding that it's harder to gain these opportunities that can get them to the level of like Melanee and Kara, where they can kind of start their careers. And I think that there's always that question of like, why are there no great female artists? Of course, posing that question is a problem as well, because there's plenty of great female artists.
Caitlin, do you feel like you're extremely successful, especially at such a young age, but do you feel like you escaped that colonization, or it was something you broke free from? Was that something that you had to endure? In your mind, do you feel like that was something that was perpetuated, or that you were able to break free?
I mean, to a certain extent, I still notice, little moments where I feel like my gender or my race could have played a role in how things turned out. But for the most part, I feel that, I am grateful and I feel free to be able to be in the position that I'm in. But I think other than the outside forces, I think I sort of internalize my own, it's like, oh, if I have to be a part of this world that might not necessarily be built by people who look like me, right, or people of my gender, then I have to work harder. Right. And I think I've internalized that. So I think for me, it's about just making sure that I'm very conscious of whatever the next hurdle is, that I make sure that I do everything that I can to jump it. And if that means that you have to be conscious of the forces that might be working against you.
So in light of those forces then, Margaret, how important is it to have a curator like Dexter?
It's huge. Anybody's going to tell you that artists are lonely people. We work alone. We're scared to death most of the time. The only time that that artists are not anxious to the point of almost paralysis is when they're working. Then you get somebody like Dexter. I met Dexter when I went to a panel discussion at the Brooklyn Museum, and he got up. He was the most interesting person. He was just in the audience. He was the most interesting person in the panel, and I just wanted to meet that man. I just wanted to be a part of the conversation he was putting out there, and it was my wildest dream that that could happen. And it was true. It was one of the luckier things that's happened to me in life. Without that man asking that question, I'm not allowed to answer.
So the question was asked, Dexter, and I want to ask you now. What's the takeaway from all of this? You talked that there wasn't a sort of overarching thing that you were doing, but you've looked at your roster. You see the trajectory that you're on.
Right.
Yeah, what's the takeaway for all of this and a message, if you have one to impart?
Sure. I mean, there are many. I'll stick to one. We often talk of the art world, and that's a very monolithic term. And the reality is that there isn't one art world. There are many. The art world is the world you choose to be in. You could be an artist that simply makes small sketches and you sell them to people you know, and you're just as valid as an artist as someone who's shown at the Whitney. Because the act of making and making an impact is what it's really all about. All the other stuff, the commercialism, the marketing, the hype, the auctions, all of that, that's another art world. And still, there are other art worlds, right? So I think if there's one takeaway, it's that the artist is just a critically important part of our society. Often marginalized, certainly misunderstood, but I happen to think that they are some of the most important people in society because they have the ability to sometimes make us see things that we wouldn't otherwise see, or ask questions that we wouldn't otherwise ask, and therein lies the answer. My role, or rather my mission as a curator, is to propel that forward any way that I can, for as long as I can.
Well, Godspeed to you, Mr.
Where can we see the ladies, and how long is the exhibition running?
Well, the exhibition Corpus Americas opens at Driscoll Babcock Galleries on Thursday, December 12th. The opening reception is that day from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. The exhibition will run until January 18th. You can go online to driscollbabcock.com and you'll be able to see all the details around the show. Caitlin and Margaret are 2 of 10 artists that are in the exhibition. I think it's going to be quite exciting, and I'm really, really happy to have been able to curate this show.
Corpus Americas.
Thank you for curating the show. Thank you for being here, ladies. Thank you, gentlemen. So later on, not to get too la-di-da, but we'll be having wine and finger food with Chef Tony. Next up, the big fight at Barclays this past Saturdays. But first, a StoryCorps animation. It's called To R.P. Salazar with Love.
I get to work, first thing I do is turn on my email. When I discovered this one, I didn't know who it was from.
My coworker sent you that email by mistake.
And I was like, here's another R.P. Salazar. Imagine that. And so I forwarded it. I wrote a little message. Hi, Rachel. It seems as if this message came to me instead of you. I'm in Waco, Texas, USA. Have a great day. P.S. How's the weather there in Bangkok?
I replied to you, weather in Bangkok is lovely. Gracias, Rachel.
So began a chain of emails.
The first couple of emails, you started describing yourself, and that kind of encouraged me to be open about myself, too.
I was excited that this person is halfway around the world. It's kind of like sending a letter in a bottle. I happened to hover my mouse over your name on one of those emails, and a picture of you popped up. I was like, wow, she's really beautiful. How can I make this picture bigger? I would stay up late at night, which was your morning, and we would chat for like 4 or 5 hours.
You had started to play an important role in my life even before I consciously realized it. I knew that I was falling in love, but there's still that tiny little bit of doubt that this might not work because we're 8,000 miles away from each other. But at some point, I finalized my plans to visit the U.S.
And you didn't tell anyone.
because everyone would tell me, "You're foolish to go halfway across the world to meet some strange guy you have not met. That would be crazy."
And on my end, every relative, every friend, coworker, everyone knew.
We were together for 8 days.
We were dancing one night, and you mentioned something to the fact that
I said that you were the sweetest guy I've ever met.
I knew right at that moment I need to say something or do something so that I don't lose her. And so I got on my knee and asked you to marry me.
Deep in my heart, I knew it was coming, and it was the right thing, and it was the best thing.
People didn't believe me when I told them I proposed to Rachel. Some of them had second thoughts for me, followed by 5 minutes of laughter.
They now all tell us, "You're perfect for each other." You found the right match.
Well, it was a big night for boxing fans in Brooklyn here at the Barclays Center, especially for the fight between Zab Judah and Paulie Malignaggi. For Paulie Malignaggi, it all came together, but for Zab Judah, well, it all fell apart. Here's what they had to say after the fight.
Little chance of beating Paulie. I don't care if you're young or middle age. I ain't gonna say old. Paulie don't have to throw punches to be moving something in his body, and I'm talking about this energized. And he fought that fight, and Zab couldn't react quick enough. I'm not going to say a man got old overnight. No, you get old in the gym, nobody tells you, and then you show up to the fight, and you really look old because now it's been exposed. I want to introduce multi-world champion Zab Super Judah.
Of course, it's always hurtful and disappointing to lose at home. You know what I'm saying? To lose where you are born and raised at, you know what I'm saying? Especially to a situation like this, you know what I mean? Zab's a puncher in this fight. My dad was saying, go get him.
I wanted to make it a fight instead of boxing. Get close and fight Paulie. I kept telling him.
And every time I went to get him, I just found myself being like, I felt myself personally sloppy. I felt like I was lunging with my left hand and trying to swing with my hooks. And, Paulie was using his speed and his great boxing ability to just keep me off balance.
I want to introduce Paulie, the king of Brooklyn, back in the picture.
I mean, the win was satisfying for sure. Not so much for the king of Brooklyn because, Zab is a guy I have a lot of respect for. But it was just an important win because it was a guy against a guy who was still at a world-class level. And so it kept me relevant at a world-class level, and it puts me in position for big fights. When you're fighting at this level, every win is important because it leads to just bigger and better things. I felt Zab doesn't fight well going backwards. He's a big puncher when he gets his forward momentum going. If you put Zab on his back foot, he's not punching as hard. He's not punching as confidently. So I felt like if I get that head movement, keep him missing, keep him guessing on which way I'm going, and keep throwing those sharp counters when he does want to get off, it'll make him hesitant. The game plan worked perfectly.
Bien, y el apoyo de la gente, gracias a Dios, y salimos victoriosos.
He says he's real happy to be here in Brooklyn and New York. There's a huge Latin population out here, and he fought once on the East Coast in AC. He's not sure if he wants to go back there after what they did to him, but he's happy to be here, and he thinks it's a great commission, and he's happy. He's happy to be here with the fans.
Let me bring up Mr. Porter, champion.
Sure. I'm 26 years old, and this is basically what I've been dreaming of, what I've been wanting, but when the opportunity came over the last, I would say, week or two, I've literally dreamt of this night and how the outcome would be and the whole nine, So from that standpoint, just a lot of hunger and a lot of desire to get what I want out of life, out of this sport. And I'm just so blessed to be an IBF champion right now and be official champion in the history books.
And joining me is Doc Stanley, the fight doctor here. Doc, for Zab Judah, disappointing night. I mean, it appears that Paulie Malignaggi was able to do whatever he wanted to. He was able to stick him, move, spin around. Every time Zab tried to lunge at him, he wasn't there. And also, one thing that Zab said too, he said, you know what, I just tried to get it off, and I saw the openings, and I just couldn't get to him. I mean, he said that in so many words. And you hear a lot of fighters say that as they get older. I heard Muhammad Ali said it. He said, I saw the opening, I just couldn't attack like I wanted to or like I used to. And there's a time for Zab maybe to think about stepping aside.
Yeah, I don't know. First of all, praise the Father God, my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Great to be back here with you and all the group. You know, that happened. Bernard said that, you know, and he said something that was very revealing, that the exposure and decline is first seen in the gym, but nobody tells you. We're going to say that Zab once again underachieved. We're going to say that Zab showed up and wasn't Zab. The thing new in this fight that Zab was the puncher. Paulie talked about doing the things that kept him off balance and not being able to beat the puncher.
And he said also Zab could not fight going backwards.
Yeah, well, not too many guys can. Harold Weston talked about that. In today's market, not many guys can fight going backwards. The thing here, I think Zab is still a commodity in the sense that people will want him on their resume. But Paulie has now propelled himself back into the picture. Paulie came into this fight actually with 1 foot out of the ring. You know, Heyman came to him. Paulie was, you know, not too. He was still kind of upset by that loss that he shouldn't have got against Bronner.
And he said he wants to fight Bronner again.
Yeah,
he wants that fight.
This Bronner fights next week. It's a fight that sells him and Bronner again, and Paulie is back in the picture. You know, Paulie could somewhere down the line remotely be in the Mayweather sweepstakes if he can continue to win. But it's a great fight, maybe surely one of the best fights of his career. But Paulie came into this fight with nothing to lose. As I'm saying, a guy that comes to the plate, he just wants to hit the ball. Just wants to hit the ball. Zab was looking to go deep.
So you're saying Zab was looking, in baseball terms, looking to hit the home run.
Hit the home run, and Paulie just wanted to hit the ball. Didn't care where hit the ball at. That psychologically made it just so much easier for Paulie.
And also, Paulie, he fought with Zab as a southpaw. So therefore, there was a sort of awkward moment, especially with the so-called knockout. It was a matter of footing, and they both tripped over each other.
Well, you got to take your hat up to him that didn't bother Paulie. You know, all the advantage that Zab had, he didn't use and didn't take advantage because Paulie neutralized. Southpaw, the heavier puncher, supposedly the better. Yeah, great job, Paulie.
Yeah,
great job.
So what do you think as far as Paulie? What as far as Zab? What's his next move?
We don't know. We don't know. I mean, there are people who still want to fight. Zab has the name. You know, if you can fight Zab Judah and beat him, I beat Zab Judah. I beat one of the elite fighters of his era. Zab is still markable. But the point is, you know, some people say, well, you know, what Zab's going to show up. I mean, he didn't get beat that badly.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, he's in the catch-22 position. Some people might say, well, he lost. Some people say, yeah, but he's still Zab Judah. So it all depends on what mindset you as a promoter or you as a coach. Zab can still help sell tickets in the right environment.
Right, because it could have went. I thought he should have been a little bit more aggressive, maybe. But he said, people say this, people say that. But he said, you know, you guys aren't in the ring. And he gave me certain moves that I wasn't expecting. And I mean, this is, I'm just paraphrasing.
You know, nobody, you had the greatest radio show in history, Bellamy Box Report. You know the sport. You knew what you had to do, and you should be able to make the adjustments. Zab didn't make the adjustments, okay? Don't say he threw me a fastball. You're looking for a fastball. You didn't hit it. So just say you didn't hit it. You know, take your hat off to Paulie. Zab didn't do what he was supposed to do. Yeah,
all right, cool. All right, Saddam Ali also won by 7th round TKO.
It's a tremendous card.
And Marcus Brown, too.
Eric Wonder talked about the boring card. Laura won against Trout. Trout may be now fried fish, okay? Devin Alexander, the great, may be out of the picture now. He was probably talked about in the Mayweather sweepstakes, so he's out. So, you know, Porter's the champion. Laura is a champion. Paulie is now back in the championship picture. Those are guys, those are guys who won, who was perceived to not be able to, with the exception of Laura against Trout. You know, we go down to Atlantic City, that card.
Yeah, how was that card?
Yeah, Willie Kirtland, 50 Cent's fighter, won a big, impressive fight against Joey Tapia. Southpaw, you know, did all the things that a pro does. It made Tapia look like an amateur and really was just beat him bad. Worked the body, inside left hand. 50 was elated. You know, 50 teased the crowd when he came out. You know, Tapia. But it put Kirkland back in the picture. Rigodorf. It shows why he's one of the elite fighters in this game. He has the hand speed, the foot speed.
Go ahead.
And there's talk about the rematch with him and Donaire now.
Do you also, as far as the rematch between Paul Malignaggi and Broner, if Broner wins next week, do you think that match will take place?
I think people want to see. People want to see. I mean, because now Paulie has propelled himself back in the picture. 90% of people thought Paulie won the fight. So, okay, Broner, let's do it again.
Also, Marcus Brown, light heavyweight Olympian from Staten Island, he also won.
Oh, yeah, he looks good. I like him. Yeah. In fact, if I believe, his big idol is the great Cristiano Ronaldo, the footballer from Portugal.
Right. So, as far as boxing, only thing that's missing right now is. And also, we spoke to the promoter, who's the promoter for this particular fight, was Bernard Hopkins, and he said he's not. He said he may or may not fight sometime next year. Hopefully, said maybe later next year. But he didn't really want to talk about himself too much.
Well, Burns going to fight again. Yeah. Talking to my good buddy Liddy Jesus, Bernard is just about set to go again, according to the inside sources. Why not? You know, Larry Holmes told me something I'll never forget. It's hard to stop doing the best thing you do in life, and people are going to pay you.
Right. Because he last fought back in October.
Yeah, he liked October. But Bernard's like Ray Leonard. Bernard has always stayed in shape, is always ready to fight. He's been one of the elite champions of this era. And he has showed that if you know the fundamentals of this game, what you can do. And, you know, the guys today, as Harold Weston say, you know, they just can't fight. And Bernard, if you can't fight, Bernard's going to fight you and beat you.
All right, Doc, let's also talk about this glove. How old is this glove first?
Well, you know, this is the original boxing glove from, I'm trying to see the fighter that wore this glove. I think Glenwood Real Beats Brown, or maybe it may have been Alex Ramos. But the thing about this glove, and we want to say happy birthday to Larry Bird on the 7th, and Mel Smith Jr. out there from Brooklyn, get well too. But this glove, I brought it because it has some classic people. Bojack, nobody had more main event fights in Madison Square Garden than Bojack. Jose Torres, the light heavyweight champion, former light heavyweight champion of the world. And it was the Jose Torres fight, March of 1962, where the first time ever you had another national anthem played outside the American national anthem, the Puerto Rican national anthem. And he was light heavyweight champion on the custom model, the Tyson people. Emil Griffith, the late, great Emil Griffith, one of the great welterweight, middleweight champions of all time. And we told Bojack, Kid Gavilan, the legendary.
The Bolo Punch from Cuba. As a matter of fact, he was the first probably fighter from Cuba to cross over.
I think he was the most popular of that era. Right. You know what I mean?
He was in sugar canes, and said he created the Bolo Punch by pulling the sugar canes.
Tried against Ray Robinson, but didn't work.
And he first wore white shoes, huh? I think he was the first to wear white shoes.
I think you're right. Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Mike Bellamy, Arthur McCanty.
Now, no, really.
Good.
We were talking out in the hallway about boxing at Madison Square Garden. The Garden is not the place anymore. Is the Barclays taking over?
I don't know. I told Larry Torres, one of the top executives of MSG, you know, the Barclays Center is not MSG. But you have to understand that Madison Square Garden doesn't have a boxing department anymore. And they really don't care about boxing. You know, when Harold Weston left there as the matchmaker, the lights went out. Don King has revived some fights. In fact, this hat I'm wearing is the last heavyweight fight that Don had at the Garden. You know, there'll still be
Battle of Supremacy. Who was on that card?
You had.
Can we zoom in on that real quick?
Yeah, that card, Jamel McCline. I forget the heavyweight champ that he fought that particular night. We also had Mark Bpwland on that card. Choppy was on that card. It was a heavyweight fight that King had brought in, and Jamel McCline, who happened to be down in Atlantic City that night, dropped the Nigerian champion twice, and he didn't win the fight.
But you said as far as fights at the Garden and the Barclays Center, so are we moving more towards Brooklyn now?
Oh, no question about it. I mean, there's no question. And you understand, because we have a new era of people who don't have really a sense of history and the distinction of the Garden, but you have to blame the Garden.
I mean, to the Garden, to most folks, especially folks that are younger than myself and you, the Garden is their father's place. And maybe the Barclays is their place.
But you know what? More importantly, what the Garden is, Mike, it's where the Knicks play basketball.
Yeah.
That's sad and touching.
Yeah.
Knicks play basketball and where the Rangers play. I mean, people don't understand what Ali did and Joe Louis did. Nelson Mandela, who we salute and remember, you know, his #1 idol in life was Joe Louis. And he started up as a boxer.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm doing this thing there.
All right, well, Doc, thanks for coming on.
It's always a pleasure, my friend.
Cool.
God bless you all. Trust in God. Thanks a lot for having me.
Coming up next, not your typical fight night food. We're serving wine and appetizers for the holidays from Chef Anthony Rinaldi. Up next.
Just over 2 weeks till Christmas. 2 weeks when you may be having friends and family over, and not only trying to figure out what to serve, but how to serve it if there are too many people to fit around your table. Here with some suggestions is our friend from the Pearl Room in Bay Ridge, Chef Anthony Rinaldi.
How we doing today?
Welcome back, Chef.
Yes, we got some great items today, and we're talking about hors d'oeuvres and some pass-around appetizers. What's good about this is when you have this prepared, you have a chance now to worry about the bigger things that are going on in the kitchen. These are all nice items that you can leave out for a little bit. That could be ate at room temperature on there, and very simple appetizers to prepare. So today what we have some coconut shrimp, which are nice. We also have, I took some spring roll wrapper, and we made a couple of different things out of spring roll wrapper. We did a cozy shrimp, which are really nice because you could pick these up actually by the tail if you want to eat them.
It's like pig in a blanket, but shrimp.
Shrimp, yeah.
Shrimp in a sarong.
Okay.
And we also made a little spanakopita out of it. Over here we used a little goat cheese, gives it a nice creamier texture on there instead of feta on there. And we got a vegetable spring roll that has just straight cabbage, has nice ginger for flavor in there. We have a little pepper tuna, and over here we have asparagus bruschetta. So why don't we go with the tuna and the pepper seared tuna we're going to put over the jicama right now today.
Great.
On that.
And there's that cucumber on the jicama?
Yes. We actually pickled the cucumber on there. Gives it a nice little flavor going on, and it'll take off the hint of the pepper crust. And the wine that we're doing today actually is a little Farrah Curator on it, a Bella Luce on it. Why I picked this Bella Luce is that it's a white Meritage. So Meritage has at least 3 grapes. This wine actually happens to have 4.
Nice.
And this will go with all our appetizers today because it starts off with a Pinot Grigio, and on that Pinot Grigio provides the acidity in the wine. The Chardonnay that we have over there is going to balance it out, give it a little butter to the shrimp on there. And for a little spice in that fresh ginger, we also have Gewürztraminer, which is a nice grape that's formed in Germany on there. So there's the latest beautiful pepper seared tuna right over there.
So each glass will complement each.
Yeah, you don't have to think about serving 4 different wines because you're serving a fish thing and a veggie thing and a spinach.
Yeah, by having all those different grapes, what happens is it brings up, it'll bring out the essence of each grape as you're eating the food.
Right.
So the pepper's going to bring out the Pinot Grigio, the acidity in there. The coconut shrimp is going to bring out the butter from the shrimp that's going to be in the Chardonnay on there. You get a nice sweet touch with our mushroom tart that's going on here, and the asparagus bruschetta over there. So I also, too, it's always nice to have little garnishes. Here we have some nice little pistachios to put over there, keep it a little Christmassy. We have a little wasabi soy, too. We'll put it on the side if you'd like to put it over there.
Great. So which of these can be made ahead of time so you don't have that, like you're in the kitchen all day and your guests
Everything could be basically prepared ahead of time except for our bruschetta.
Yeah.
We made an asparagus bruschetta. If you like corn, you add a little corn to it for a nice color. But it's nice, gives a little rustic look on there. We're just going to easy form and an easy way to knock bruschetta out. Everybody thinks, oh, let me get a spoon, but nice, easy. If you have a little glove on, you get it on there, you get that nice fill on there. On there. So we get those 2 going over there, and it gives you that nice feel. And you never want to have your crostini. So this is the only thing you want to do towards the end of putting anything out.
So it's quick and easy, but it all looks healthy. Is that asparagus in there?
Yes. Nice asparagus on there. We have over there, we'll have a little cheese we'll put on too a little bit, make it a little Christmassy.
So I know you made all of this, Chef, but if I'm walking through the freezer section and I'm challenged in the kitchen, what's the one sort of frozen hors d'oeuvre you can get that your guests won't like throw back at you? If there's one
well, the reason why I'm here and talking to you today is that we're not going to do that. You want to put on, and everybody sees these hors d'oeuvres and they think, oh wow, that's going to be hard to do.
Right.
Let me go and do that. Right. That's why I said we did a lot of things just out of a spring roll wrapper. Okay. And it's
just
easy
a regular
to do.
spring roll wrapper that you can get next to the like yogurt aisle.
Yes, and that's it. It's cheap, 99 cents, and you can make 10 different hors d'oeuvres out of that one spring roll wrapper, make them look all different ways on there. And let's get back to the wine. This Bella Luce that we have, Farrah Curator, is excellent wine to go with everything. A white Meritage is always nice, especially for a starter. Yeah. That's why we went with the white.
That's fantastic.
And can the kids help with these, like little wrappers? Like
sure, make it fun by all means.
I'm glad, because when he said, can the kids help with these, you were pouring, and I was concerned. I was slightly concerned.
The kids can't help with the mommy juice. It's okay.
But I like that. You said 99 cents, so that they're not just having an opportunity to make a diversity of food, they're saving some money.
Besides that, it's an item that you can just keep in the freezer when you're ready to do it. You have your shrimp, you start wrapping everything up, your vegetables, cabbage, anything you want to put into it. It's always nice when you have company over. And next week we're going to move into some beautiful bouquet on there.
We want to drink it.
Yes. That's the Sauvignon Blanc, brings out the pear and the honeysuckle
it smells
on
great.
there. And once you start getting into the pepper tuna, your palate's going to really explode going through there.
Ooh, smells great. So.
Cheers to Christmas. And next week we're going to be making some stuffed lobsters, so we could serve some lobster here, that a harder entree that we're going to make easy for you to serve. So please join us next week.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming.
It's really good. I think that's the tip of the day. Get a blend that goes with everything. You save money, and it goes so well with all of the stuff that you're serving. All right, Chef Rinaldi, thanks for being here. Thanks for the spread. Now, tomorrow, before we get into all this, there are 3 activists who use art to get your attention, including the one-of-a-kind Reverend Billy, the leader of the Church of Stop Shopping.
Believe it or not, we have 2 reverends on the show tomorrow. Reverend Daniel Meter of Old First Church in Park Slope will be here to talk about this weekend's annual Jingle Bell Jamboree.
Well, a few weeks back, the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce President Carlos Sesora was here with this guy promoting Italian Restaurant Week, and of course the Pearl Room was a part of that out in Bay Ridge. But Carlo is coming back, and this time he's going to celebrate Kosher Restaurant Week to go along with our 2 reverends. Maybe we'll make him an honorary rabbi. Who knows?
Maybe. But if you've got something you think we should be honoring or celebrating, you let us know. Send us your ideas to tips@bricartsmedia.org.
All right. Here's to you, Brooklyn.
Here's to you.
See you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Salud.
Salud.